So let's first start by telling me your technical experience, especially in terms of JavaScript and React.
When I started exploring ERP Next and Frappe framework is mainly built on JavaScript and Python. So
Hmm.
I got an exposure with JavaScript where I explored its ES6 features and uh, and how functional components works in React. So as I got into basics of JavaScript, then I started learning React. Then in React, there was a major release in 2018 that is functional components. So I get started with functional components. Then slowly I started creating components. I understood what are states, their hooks. So these kind of concepts I was familiar with. Now currently I'm getting a little exposure to Redux also, that is React Redux and Redux Toolkit. So these are some of the things that I explored both in JavaScript and React.
Okay. So what are the features mostly you are using in React? Like in your project, functional
Okay.
components is on. So Redux is not the major thing. Like you said, you are just getting the exposure.
Yes, yes.
So what are the main features you are using in your application?
Currently, we have developed a vast portal wherein trainers and it's a where trainers can be added. Session trainers can create many more sessions. There was a Zoom SDK integration where customer or the end user can join the meeting via the Zoom within our client application, that is the React application. So this was the basic requirement, wherein we had to create a few components, like few screens on user related pages, and also admin related pages was also designed, and APIs was integrated.
So all these pages which you are saying, they are designed in React, like they are developed in React.
Yes, yes, it's designed in React, and even the APIs are integrated within the whole front end application is developed in React.
Okay. And
Yeah.
you have done a major work in this area, in the pages and which are developed, some of them.
Yeah, yeah. The core feature which we integrated is that React I18, which is a multiple language. It will provide multiple language platform. We can add multiple language like English, Kannada, or Burmese, or any other languages that can be set into. That is one additional feature which this application had.
Okay. And what is
Yeah.
your backend?
Coming to backend for this application, we are using .NET .NET Function app.
And there
There
are
is an
APIs.
Azure.
Okay.
Yeah. In the Azure environment, we have something called Function app.
Mhm.
So in that is a serverless architecture.
Okay.
So that
And
was the key thing.
how
Yeah.
you are calling the APIs? Which kind of tool or you are using in React?
In the front end, I'm calling using Axios.
Okay.
Axios is an external library where it has got some ready functions like .get, .post, put and delete or patch based on the requirement I used to call. And as far as I remember, we used to create some custom hooks for API calling
Okay.
to maintain the coding standards. Yeah.
Okay. So any example, just like I don't want to go into details, but any example of a custom hook and what it was doing or what it is hiding?
Mm, like it was a totally separate file, separate .js file,
Mhm.
wherein we used to store everything in a variable. Then we used to call it like a routing method in other wherever whenever required after exporting it. So I haven't I need to try on, I need to work more on it. So
Okay.
whatever it was already set, I was just using it.
Okay.
So
Okay. What are general hooks which you are using in React? Like what are the
like
inbuilt hooks?
I have come across use state, use effect, use context, use reducer, use ref.
Okay.
use memo, these many hooks. In Redux, we have use selector, use dispatch. So these
Okay.
were few APIs. Yeah,
Have
a
you
few hooks.
used Okay.
Yeah.
Have you used use ref in any particular situation?
Use ref when there are like 10 to 12 fields in my form, and I don't want to re-render my component on change of each field. So what we did is we took up we stored it as a user in the user ref, so that it will not re-render, and it is an uncontrolled way of handling things, so that where I get the access to access the original DOM, the actual DOM, rather than
Mhm.
the VDOM. Whereas if I could have taken use state also, but to stop the re-rendering process, there was no it was not necessary. So I had taken use ref for that
So you are
purpose.
directly catching the value from the
Yes,
target. Yeah.
yes, using the use ref hook, creating a reference and passing the ref keyword in the input tag.
Okay.
This was the tag followed.
Okay. And you said context also. So have you done any work in contexts?
Yeah, I just gave it a try because uh, passing the data through props is a really difficult as the application grows on. Like component one has got a state data, and component 10 requires that state data. Passing continuously through the props, it might end up being giving errors. So I explored a little bit of use context, wherein I can create a context and export it. Then wherever in whichever component it is required, I should wrap it up within the parent component, so that with the dot provider method, so that the child component is can be accessible. So from the child component, I can use it through the use context hook. So that was the way I explored it. And before that, there is something called context API also. As application grows on, it might create callback hells. Like it might create a lot of confusions in the readability of the code. So I thought it's better to use context rather than the context API.
But I think context API is related, like it's the underlying thing for everything. Like
Yeah,
you said, provider. So you said parent will have provider and
yeah, it will wrap
child
under.
can access using use context. So
Yeah.
context should be put at the app level or we can put it at any component level.
Usually, if we put the context in the app level, all the components within that current application will be access the that state variable or the state will be accessible. It can be used in the component level also if it is required. Yeah, that's
Okay.
not an issue.
And if we have multiple context, can you make multiple context?
Yeah, yeah, multiple contexts can be done, but wrapping will happen. The more wrapping can be seen within the parent component.
Yeah.
So one after the other, that will be a, that would be there, but it can be done.
Okay. I'll ask you about a particular case. Just assume maybe you have used it. If there is a
Okay,
context provider, you have put it at the app level. Okay. And you
okay,
gave some value. Now you go down few levels and then you use this same provider again. Okay. You have
mm,
used it in some kind of child again,
okay.
same provider, but a different value. So can this be used?
Like you're trying to update the state value within the provider.
Yeah, what I'm saying, assume there are multiple levels, hierarchy of
Okay,
components,
okay,
and suppose our context name is theme context. Okay. And
okay,
I put theme context at app level.
okay,
But now I go down few levels and then I put that same theme context at another level. Okay. And at the top, maybe the theme context has a value dark, and maybe at this lower level, it has a value light. So, will there be different context scope created, or how you feel? Will still parent be relevant to the inner context, or the inner context will overwrite? or what, or is it even legal or not?
Okay. Basically, if you're sending out through the value, if we want to update that, we need a set state or something. Set of functions should be required, right?
Yeah, that is
So
required.
once it is updated, maybe it will override the context in the child components, because it has the ability, since we are passing it as a value,
Hmm.
it should have the ability to edit, right? I'm not
Yeah,
I'm not sure about this. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, you can. Another
Okay.
thing related to context only.
Okay.
Suppose in a component you have declared provider. Can in
Okay.
same component you can use context and use it in same? I'm not saying the parent, not saying the child. There
Okay.
is one component, and in that component's definitions in JSX generally we put provider. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you put
Yeah.
some provider there, and in
Okay.
same component at the top you are using use context. Can that use context use this value which you have defined, or will it not use?
Yeah, this is a good question. uh, like, I have not tried it, but yeah, because we are not exporting also, it is in the same component. But if I'm trying to access in the same component, I will be directly accessing the state, whatever been declared in the parent, right?
Yeah,
So I've not come across. Definitely, I will give it a try once after this interview. Yeah.
yeah, sure. Now coming back to a little bit of JavaScript programming,
Yes.
and anything in particular you have done with the closures in JavaScript?
I Yeah. Closures are the functions which is inside another functions which make a function, normal function, a stateful function. It also tries to hides the uh, inner logic of that internal function, and it has got a lexical scope. Like if outer functions has declared some properties or variables, even the inner function has got the access to those variables. That's what I've found about closures.
Yeah. So is there any other mechanism in JavaScript where we can achieve this kind of data hiding, or you can say variable, we are hiding those variables, and so that kind of same thing can we get in JavaScript somehow without using closures, obviously?
Okay. This thing I have not think about. Will generator functions usually allows us to stop the execution with the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah, not
Uh,
generator, not generator. Have you heard about class keyword?
yeah, classes. Yeah, classes.
Yeah, kind of
Yeah,
same,
within the classes we can implement
different
abstraction.
abstractions. Yeah.
Yeah, that is allowed in JavaScript also, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a
Okay. So, have you seen the module structure? Like how there are some imports which are directly imported, like import React from React, and then there is something like import use state, use effect, and they are in the
comma,
curlies.
curly
So,
braces. Yeah.
why? Do you know the reason how they are different?
One thing what I observed while in the React application is, when I create one component and suppose my component name is parent child one, I'm trying to export that component child one by using the default keyword.
Hmm.
Then in the app.js, if I try to import it, I can directly import it by giving its name import child one from this location. But while in the same component, if I create a context and export that particular context, or if I create reducers in the splice.js files, so in that time what will happen is I'll have to export a lot of things other than the default thing.
Hmm.
So in that sense, I will pass it in the flower braces. So while importing also, we'll have to mention what are things required in the flower braces with the comma separated each of it.
Okay. Yeah. So default export is the single export, and the
For
other
multiple
export.
exports, just export. Yeah, just export with the flower brushes syntax.
Okay. So related to this small thing, when we write import and curly braces, and then we write use state, use effect, or something like that, what are
Okay.
these curly braces? Like, is it an object? What is this?
Curly braces, it should be an object because use state is a function, is a hook, is a functional hook.
No, you can.
Uh,
I'm asking in general, like any
only,
library
yeah.
which you import in this kind of format where curly braces A, comma B, curly braces from some module. So, what this syntax means in JavaScript, this import and curly. So, have you thought about it or explored?
Destructuring,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
This is the destructured way.
properties. Okay, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And in case of the React, like when you import React from React, can you
Yes.
change the name? Like, can I say
Uh,
import React from React, but can I say import R from React? Can you change it? And will
uh,
it work?
okay, but if we do it, like I will have to use the R keyword everywhere. Like,
Yeah, that is
yeah,
for sure. This
I
is
believe it should.
also not
Uh,
for, I'm not just asking for React, any general
okay.
where you have only the default export. Can you change the name of default export and use it anyhow? Have you explored it?
Yes, it can be done. Like if I default export a component in React, and if I change the name in when in the app.js, it will work. That's not
No.
an issue.
Yeah. It works.
Yes.
So, talking about higher order functions, any higher order functions you have used during this whole application?
You mean to say in the JavaScript part?
Yeah. Not higher order
Higher order.
components. I'm asking higher order functions of JavaScript.
Yeah, come across filter, map,
Hmm.
users of like reduce have not come across, but yeah, map and filter. Map because if there is an array, I want to iterate and show all the components to my to the UI with a div or a list, then yes, map is used. Even filter for sorting and for searching. And in these times, I have used filter in my React application.
So we generally use map everywhere
Yes,
in React.
yes,
Now,
yes.
why we don't use for?
For, yeah, the problem is in the JSX part, for loop or for each loop, it's not supported. Like even if is also not supported in the JSX. So when it comes to map, it is a higher order, as you said, it's a higher order function. It takes a callback in the callback function in the as a parameter. Each accepts a callback function as a parameter. So that will, yeah, that will ease the process of development rather than using the for loop.
Yeah, it eases, but is there any single reason why if for these are not supported? Why they are not supported? And if
Mm.
is not
In-
supported, but we generally use conditional operators, they are
yes.
supported. So why such behavior?
Like I too started using if, but it gave me an error. I'm not sure what error exactly I got. But yeah, but later when I got searched more on this, what the answer I got is it's not supported. Yeah, I
Okay.
would be curious to know why. What's the reason behind this? Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I'll tell you. Uh,
sure.
Before that, I'll ask just one question. Is
Sure.
JSX same as HTML? Like, is JSX and HTML are same?
Like maybe the use of syntax or the use of syntax, if someone is learning HTML and trying to shift as a React developer, it will be easy. But even without using JSX, also React components can be designed and developed. That is basically it is using a transpiler. There is a called that is Babel, which converts the uh, like JSX into a into JavaScript. That is like React dot create component div, comma. It will have some certain properties. So in this way, this way also it can be developed. But to make it more easier, they have come up with an idea of JSX. It's not
Okay.
the same, but it's JavaScript XML.
Okay. So what is transpiler? Like what it does? It like in this case you said it converts JSX to normal JavaScript.
JSX
So
to normal Java.
so in general, what is, if you can define a transpiler, what is a transpiler?
The transpiler helps us to convert the JSX elements into a JavaScript notation within the browser, so that our code gets executed. Like it might work like a interpreter.
Yeah. So a little different. So JSX basically is JavaScript. It's a different notation of JavaScript.
Okay.
Okay, something like ES6 is JavaScript but a new notation. So JSX is JavaScript but a new notation.
Yes.
Or you can say not supported in browser, so it transpiles. And because it is JavaScript, and it is actually JavaScript object to say JavaScript, JSX is JavaScript, compiles to a JavaScript object. And because it is an object, you can only put values inside it, not statements. So if for our statements and map returns a value. So that is the
Yeah.
reason. You can check like their documentation, so they will tell you something. But that
Sure.
is one. So that's why class name, not class, because class is a JavaScript keyword. If you put it again in object, it may confuse. Okay.
Yeah, for the CSS purpose.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So final thing is, have you heard about event loop or a single threaded? How single threaded is changed to multi-threaded or async functionality?
Yeah. Basically, JavaScript runs by default in the browsers like Google Chrome, Edge, Firefox. In Google Chrome, there is something called V8 engine. When you try to execute a piece of JavaScript code, where initially it will be working like statement one by one after the other. Execution will be one after the other. Like if there are like a set time interval or set interval or a web API call or a backend call to database using a fetch. So in these scenarios, so the statement will be taken out of the call stack. So basically, each of the statements will be executed by the call stack. So in these scenarios, like web API or any set timeout, these kind of functions, it will be taken out of the call stack and stored it in a task queue. So soon after execution, it will get a response and callback. So what this event looping will do is it will basically check whether the call stack is empty. If it is empty, then it will pull out the data from the data right from the task queue and start completes its execution in the call stack. So event looping will help that connectivity. That brings asynchronous nature in JavaScript. Basically, it won't wait for each of the statements in a serial way. Rather, it will execute one after not one after the other. Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's fine. So thanks for this interview, and we will share your result very soon. तो इस इंटरव्यू को एनालाइज करके देखते हैं। तो ये एक एक्सपीरियंस डेवलपर का इंटरव्यू था जिसको 1 साल का एक्सपीरियंस है वेब डेवलपमेंट में। कंप्लीटली 1 साल रिएक्ट में नहीं गया था, लेकिन काफ़ी कुछ रिएक्ट में किया हुआ था। हमने सबसे पहले स्टार्ट किया था प्रोजेक्ट डिस्कशन, और ये होगा मोस्टली जब आप एक एक्सपीरियंस लेके गए हो, स्पेशली सेम फील्ड में, तो आपसे प्रीवियस वर्क के बारे में पूछा जाएगा। तो यहाँ पे आप अपने स्ट्रॉन्ग कॉन्सेप्ट्स को ज़्यादा हाईलाइट कीजिए। मतलब आपके पास तो एक बहुत ओपन स्पेस होगा कि आप कुछ भी डिस्कस कर सकते हैं, पर अपने स्ट्रॉन्ग पार्ट पे रहिए ताकि उससे और डीप में क्वेश्चन कर सकें। और इसमें भी अगर आप रिलेट कर पाए, जहां पे अभी आप इंटरव्यू दे रहे हो उस पोजीशन से काफी रिलेटेड आप बात कर पाए, तो यहाँ पे आपके लिए काफी अच्छा रहेगा। तो ये सेक्शन ठीक रहा था, इसको और भी अच्छा आप कर सकते हो अपनी जॉब के हिसाब से। इसके बाद हम आ गए थे रिएक्ट पे। तो रिएक्ट के कुछ क्वेश्चंस थे। तो जैसे सबसे पहले हमने हुक्स के बारे में पूछा कुछ, और उसमें यूज रेफ हुक्स का कहीं पे आ गया कि उन्होंने यूज रेफ का नाम लिया और उससे हमने उसको आगे पूछ लिया। तो इसमें एक बहुत ही परफेक्ट रियल लाइफ एग्जांपल दिया गया था। अगर आपको याद हो तो उसमें कहा गया था कि फॉर्म में आप सीधे वैल्यूज उठा लेते हैं, कंट्रोल और नॉन कंट्रोल कंपोनेंट्स की बात हुई थी। तो वो बहुत ही एक अच्छा एग्जांपल था कि जहां पे आप यूज रेफ हुक यूज करने से आपको क्या फायदा हुआ। और ऐसी चीजें जब आप कहीं से याद करके जाते हो कि यूज रेफ हुक क्यों होता है, तो वो एक अलग तरह का आंसर होता है। और यहाँ पे आपने प्रैक्टिकली उसको बताया कि आपने कहाँ पे यूज किया है। तो ये चीज काफी अच्छी लगती है और इससे थोड़ा एक सेट हो जाता है कि अब इंटरव्यूअर के माइंडसेट है कि आपने रियली में कुछ ऐसा इंटरेस्टिंग काम किया हुआ है। अब कॉन्टेक्स्ट एपीआई के बारे में एक क्वेश्चन आया था जो प्रॉपरली एक्सप्लेन था। इसमें और डीपली हम चले गए थे। ये पूछा भी नहीं गया था, इसमें बता दिया गया था कि कॉन्टेक्स्ट एपीआई थोड़ी सी अलग है। तो जबकि वहां पे जो कैंडिडेट थे वो बताना चाह रहे थे कि क्लास में जब कॉन्टेक्स्ट एपीआई यूज होती थी तो वो थोड़ी सी नेस्टेड हो जाती थी। तो अब यूज कॉन्टेक्स्ट हुक से वो आसान हो गया है। तो इतना उसको पता था कैंडिडेट को, ये एक इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है। हाँ, वहां थोड़ा सा कंफ्यूजन हो गया, लेकिन अगर इंटरव्यूअर को ये समझ में आ रहा है तो काफी अच्छा है। उसके बाद में मल्टीपल कॉन्टेक्स्ट की बात हुई थी, पर मोस्टली राइट आंसर आया था। और फिर यूज कॉन्टेक्स्ट एंड प्रोवाइडर के बारे में पूछा गया था कि यूज कॉन्टेक्स्ट है, प्रोवाइडर है, तो राइट अप्रोच से उस चीज को आंसर किया गया कि मल्टीपल प्रोवाइडर हैं। तो ऐसा क्वेश्चन भी आया था कि मल्टीपल प्रोवाइडर क्या हो सकते हैं और वो सब। तो उसमें भी काफी सही से आंसर किया था और ज्यादातर चीजें सही बताई गई थी। तो अब जेएस क्वेश्चन पे आ जाते हैं। तो यहाँ पे क्लोजर बताया था, तो क्लोजर का आंसर सही था, पर इसमें एक खास बात यह है कि क्लोजर को थोड़ा सा इस तरह से एक्सप्लेन किया था जो कई बार आपको डेफिनेशंस में वैसा नहीं मिलेगा, और थोड़ा सा बताया गया था कि इसकी इंपॉर्टेंस क्या है। तो यहाँ पे भी थोड़ा आंसर एकदम रटा रटा ऐसा नहीं लगा गया कि इनर फंक्शन आउटर फंक्शन जैसा ज्यादातर लोग बोलते हैं, क्योंकि वो एक ही एग्जांपल देख के आते हैं। इंपोर्ट एक्सपोर्ट एक्सपोर्ट डिफॉल्ट, ये एक ऐसा क्वेश्चन था कि पे कई बार हम यूज करते हुए हैं लेकिन सोचते नहीं है। जैसे कई लोग एक्सपोर्ट एक्सपोर्ट डिफॉल्ट करते हैं, या फिर कई लोग इंपोर्ट में भी ये नहीं सोचते कि हम कई बार सीधे इंपोर्ट कर लेते हैं या फिर ब्रैकेट में लगा के करते हैं, क्यों करते हैं। तो यहाँ पे 100% सही जवाब नहीं पहले से आता था कैंडिडेट को, तो उन्होंने एक्सपोर्ट डिफॉल्ट और एक्सपोर्ट को समझाया जो कि सही था। फिर उससे हम इंपोर्ट पे गए तो उन्होंने राइट गेसेस लिए और लास्ट में ये भी बता दिया कि ये डिस्ट्रक्चर्ड फॉर्म है। तो यहाँ से पता लगता है कि जो कैंडिडेट है वो इस टाइम भी सोच पा रहा है, उसको थोड़ा सा एक्सपीरियंस है वर्क का। अब JSX का एक क्वेश्चन पूछा गया था जो थोड़ा सा गड़बड़ हो गया था। मतलब उसमें वैसे तो सही था कि इफ और फॉर आप यूज नहीं कर सकते, पर क्यों नहीं यूज कर सकते उसका कंप्लीट रीजन नहीं पता था। तो यहाँ पे थोड़ा सा पता लगता है कि हाँ, इस चीज की डेप्थ में नहीं पता, लेकिन मोस्टली कैंडिडेट ने बता दिया था कि मेरे को इस चीज का आइडिया नहीं है, जो कि एक राइट अप्रोच है। तो कुछ कुछ चीजें सही थी, लेकिन एग्जैक्ट आंसर की जावास्क्रिप्ट ऑब्जेक्ट होता है ये, वो एग्जैक्टली नहीं बता पाए। इसी के बाद में इवेंट लूप पूछा गया था, तो उसका आंसर मोस्टली करेक्ट था। उसकी डेप्थ में हम ज्यादा गए नहीं, तो वो आंसर भी ठीक था। नाउ इसमें मिस्टेक क्या थी पूरे इंटरव्यू में, तो ऐसी कोई भी बड़ी मिस्टेक इसमें थी ही नहीं। अच्छे पॉइंट्स पे आते हैं तो क्लियरली उन्होंने स्टेट किया कि कोई चीज कभी यूज नहीं की है। तो कई जगह ऐसा हुआ था कि आई हैव नॉट यूज दिस, तो वो कहना काफी अच्छा होता है। स्पेशली हर चीज पे आप नहीं बोल सकते, वरना तो अगर ऐसा आप बोल रहे हो और हर चीज ही आपके लिए नई है तो शायद इंटरव्यू सक्सेसफुल होगा नहीं। लेकिन मोस्टली कई बार ऐसा क्वेश्चन आ जाता है जहां आपको लगता है कि ये चीज तो बिल्कुल ही आइडिया नहीं है, तो बता देना चाहिए। और इसमें उन्होंने गेस भी जब भी लिए तो वो काफी एक्यूरेसी से गेस लिए। उसका यही रीजन था कि बिल्कुल ही आपको नहीं समझ में आ रहा तो आप मना कर सकते हो, और जहां थोड़ा सा भी आपको पता है तो आप थोड़ा कह सकते हो कि मैं कंफ्यूज्ड हूं, पर मैं इस चीज को आंसर कर दूंगा, ट्राई करता हूं। और कई बार आप उसमें सही भी होते हो, तो ये अप्रोच काफी ठीक थी। अगर आपके भी कोई क्वेश्चंस हैं इंटरव्यू से रिलेटेड तो आप कमेंट सेक्शन में उसके बारे में पूछ सकते हैं।